This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, all things Cleveland sports, with your host, John Suchan. Hey, and welcome to another edition of, that's right, the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. The day has arrived, or it's 35 minutes until the clock strikes midnight. And the Browns, that's right, our Brownies will be in a playoff game. It's been it's been 2020 since we last played a playoff game. Against the Kansas City Chiefs. We beat the Pittsburgh Steelers that year in that wonderful moment where all Browns fans hadn't seen in some time. And so now the Browns have been prepping, and they have this game ahead later on this afternoon. Granted, it's still not that day, but we are live, and it's 35 minutes. So, the game's at 4:30. Browns fans, I know that you are excited. You are pumped. I'm seeing all sorts of social media posts from various fanatical Browns faithful down there. Everybody from the great Paul Brown, who from across the pond in England, to other folks that we all see on social media platforms, on the X, on Facebook and such, and Instagram. So we are the Fanatical Elves Network, and this is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. We are going to be having some shows tomorrow morning leading up into the game at 4:30. We'll have our pregame show with Steve Gill, and let's see, Sam's going to be joining us. I think Elliot, the Oracle Speaks, will be on that again. So we'll have a lot to talk about. We're all, I think, nervously excited, listening to the folks up in Cleveland and the sports radio programs there. I think everybody is excited, myself included. You just don't know. I mean, you prepare. These guys are professionals. They've been at this for many years, and there's just so much to be looking forward to in this game. Obviously, some people, when they say they're excited, they also, in the same breath, they'll say, but then they have C.J. Stroud. The Houston Texans have C.J. Stroud. Like, he's going to be the difference maker and cause headache and harm to all Cleveland Browns fans and the team. C.J. Stroud might do a few things here and there, but it's not anything that the Browns and the Browns' strong defense cannot handle. I think we all forget, and I know that C.J. Stroud didn't play in this game, but it was 3 weeks ago at Christmas. The Browns totally annihilated the Texans. Yes, they destroyed the Texans in Houston, and it was built up at that point like a playoff atmosphere. And Houston was coming into that game on a real, I think they had come on a win streak coming into that battle. And they lost. Yeah, they didn't have their main quarterback. But again, the Browns defense did everything they needed to do in that game. They took them out of the game early. All the starters came out early. Browns kind of had a few mistakes in that game late, and that starters had to kind of come back in to sort of stop the bleeding. And but the Browns dominated that game, and there's nothing that doesn't tell me that that's what's going to happen again tomorrow. And everybody's like, oh, it's the playoffs and C.J. Stroud is back. But the Browns have a very potent offense right now. Why? Well, let's talk about Joe Flacco. Flacco mania. The guy's been just tremendous, throwing the ball for over 300 yards every game that he's been here with the Brownies. Since he came to this team in the later stages of November, and lots of other key ingredients here. Flacco hasn't lost a wild card playoff game. I believe he is 5-0 in playoffs, and dating back to when he played with the Baltimore Ratbirds. The team is, and Kevin Stefanski is 10-0 against AFC South opponents. So it could have been any of the other teams we played tomorrow, potentially from Jacksonville to Indianapolis. I don't think it really matters. I think that the Browns had the upper hand going into this matchup against any of those teams, and so the Browns are, I think, 2 to 3 point favorites going into this game, and I don't think we need to worry as much. Now, I predict again the other night on the Fanatical Elf show that the Browns would win this game 30-22. I'm sticking with that. Some folks think that that's a little bit high, and more people are being more cautious and giving scores like 20-14 and 24 to 16 or something like that. More low scoring, and I think that's reasonable. I just think that the Browns offense is going to kind of pick up where they left off when they went down there the first time. I think that Joe Flacco has been waiting for this moment. I think Joe Flacco, from what people have said, he's talked to the team about getting this team to the Super Bowl and going on this journey over the next several weeks. And I think having an experienced Super Bowl, I think he was Super Bowl MVP back in 2013 in that Super Bowl, is just tremendous. And it's something that the Browns have really never had in these big moments, to having an experienced quarterback. We can talk about Bernie Kosar and all those teams back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they had a wealth of experience. But, here's a guy, but the difference, with that is that, Bernie had never won, the Super Bowl. And so you've got a guy in Flacco who has won a Super Bowl, and he's been to multiple playoff games, far more than Bernie ever was. And on top of that, you got to think about who else the Browns have right now. You got Amari Cooper out there on the offensive side of the ball. Now, David Njoku, it's interesting. Some people were talking about who are their favorite Browns players, or who do you think the top 5 players of this season have been. And I saw one of the radio guys up there in Cleveland voted for David Njoku as the number 1 player for the Browns this season. I don't agree with that. I don't think that David Njoku has vaulted to number 1. He had this other guy had Myles Garrett at number 2. You got to put Myles ahead of David. I'm sorry. Amari Cooper, I think, was 3rd on his list. I would put Amari above David Njoku. You can't. Both have had good seasons. I mean, David Njoku's 800 and some yards, but, Cooper's had 1,200 to 1,300 yards this season, including that enormous, don't forget, he did it against the Houston Texans down there, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you want to put some money on the Browns and different players, there's a lot of money out there on FanDuel or in the DraftKings, things that they like the odds of Cooper scores 2 touchdowns. It's plus 1,000 right now, just 2 touchdowns. I mean, or anytime touchdown is, I think it's 200 or something, plus 200 like that for Amari Cooper. Let's not forget about some of these other players that have really come to play. On the offense, Jerome Ford, running back, young guy, has made multiple. He's done a lot of good things. Some bad things that have driven me crazy, pulled my hair out a time or two, probably like you as well. But he's another guy who's been reliable. Joe Flacco, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds Jerome Ford like he did in the other game a couple weeks ago, early and often. Let's make sure that Jerome Ford goes forward and doesn't try to dazzle us with his dancing moves in the backfield and loses 5 yards. How many of those is he going to have tomorrow? I'll predict he'll have at least 2 of those moments where he's dancing too much in the backfield, and people will say, "Oh, well, it's because our offensive line, can't block." No, there's a difference. There's a big difference. Anybody who thinks that Jerome Ford is in the same league as someone like the guy that has carried this Browns team for the last several years, Nick Chubb. Speaking of which, all of this is happening without that guy, Nick Chubb. And I believe, listening to players like Myles Garrett talk this week about how this team is very close, more close than any other unit that he's ever played on. Really, I think some of that has been generated from the idea that, you had players, big time players like Nick Chubb, who went down with a serious injury, and he hasn't been able to play at all. And so to rally around players like that, and then also this team buying into the whole Kevin Stefanski sort of 1-0 again. I'm glad that he's gotten back to it. Obviously, it's a lot better on a season when you're winning. And we didn't hear that 1-0 sort of statement a lot from Kevin or the players the last 2 years when they've been sub 500. But now you hear it again all the time. So that always helps. Winning always helps. Hey, folks, let's take a quick break here. We're only now 25 minutes away from, that's right, the playoff. Twas the night before the Browns playoff game. We're there. 25 minutes, 24 minutes. We'll be right back here on the Johnny Cleveland podcast. And we just want to thank you again. Thanks for tuning into those commercials. I hope those commercials were wonderful. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, follow us, subscribe to us. We've grown this product because of you, the loyal Browns fan here on with our Fanatical Elves. We give away free stuff. We like talking to you Browns fans, and we're like you, man. We talk about things that Browns fans talk about, and I think it's a group of guys here on this Fanatical Elves group that really enjoy talking about the Browns, and we're in this position now where the Browns are going to the playoffs. They finished the regular season at 11-6, and these moments don't always happen. And so I think all Browns fans should be cherishing these moments. We here at the Fanatical Elves are very excited and thankful. By the way, have you seen some of these various videos that are coming out, like talking about the Browns season and all this? There was one that came out that was just Jim Donovan came out with one that was pretty cool, the play-by-play guy for the Brownies. But there was also one that I don't know who produced it, but it's been circulating a lot and just has this song underlying it, but it takes you through the season and Nick Chubb getting hurt and then showing all the downtrodden moments, but then all the energy that comes from that, and then the big wins. And that's what we're thriving on here in Cleveland, and we love it when our team is winning, and that's what's happening. And so now we prep for Houston, and it's a big moment, and I think all Browns fans will be standing around their TVs and sharing their thoughts and got their fingers crossed and hoping for a big day tomorrow. I believe it will happen. Browns fans are resilient, though, and if things go sideways and they don't go exactly the way that we had all hoped, you can't look at this season anything less than dramatic, surprising, thoroughly enjoying, even all these, think about all these last second moments this season. I mean, there have been so many. We talk about the Cardiac Kids 2.0, and that's what they really are. Those of you who are old enough know about the Cardiac Kids of the 1979, 1980 season, 81 season, or 80 season primarily. They played that playoff game in 81, that heartbreaking loss to the Raiders. But that season is so much like this season, with big wins in the late stages of games. We can talk about, you think about the Colts win late, the San Francisco 49er game. I know people will say, well, they shouldn't have won that game because the guy missed the field goal at the end. Well, damn it, we don't care. The game is won and lost, and it's won by the very narrowest of margins. And so, hey, we beat the 49ers. Baltimore Ratbirds, yeah, those Baltimore Ratbirds that everybody's scared of, thinking that nobody can beat them. But guess what? The Brownies did beat the Ravens, and they did beat the 49ers, and they were down by 2 touchdowns or more against the Ratbirds and were able to fight their way back with some great defense and some other things. those late game heroics. God, what other games? You know, we destroyed the Bengals in that first game. There have been just other games this season that, you know, the Browns have been, that they've hung around and they've managed to pull out some of these late game wins, and that's what it takes. It takes the ability to win close games, and also, they've had some moments where they've been able to really pound other teams, like when they beat the Tennessee Titans. So it's a mixed bag, but in the end, the Browns have had a lot of experience. They've gone through a bazillion quarterbacks, and now they're on Joe Flacco. I thought it was interesting listening. It's funny because someone was talking on social media about somebody was recently posted another picture of some guy wearing all the pictures of, or all the names of the last 35,000 Browns quarterbacks since they came back to the league in '99. And I think it's a good point. Somebody there on social media said, we really need to stop doing that. And honest to God, Browns fans, I think you could agree with me if you think about it. It is pretty, silly that we continue to go back. Now, granted, the national media has done this, but as Browns fans and as followers of this team, as loyal fan base, we need to stop it, because once we stop it, the national media stop it, because they just like the national media just like to pick on us, right? So we need to stop it because it's just dumb at this point. We've got Deshaun Watson here. We've got Joe Flacco right now. That's what we got. Forget about all those other 35,000 quarterbacks that came before us from 1999. It's just dumb. Just stop thinking that way. Move forward. This is a new time and a new phase in Browns history. And it really is, Deshaun has done a lot of good things this year for this team. He won several games. I think he's 5-1 on the season. Yes, he's had a serious injury, and yes, he's coming back next year. And what about Joe Flacco? We'll talk about that another day, but Joe Flacco is the guy right now. And everybody is counting on Joe Flacco to produce, to do big things tomorrow. The world of everybody's stress and anxiety is rolling on Joe, and I think he'll come through. I really do. Does he seem like a guy that can't handle the pressure? No, he can handle the pressure, and that's been really fun to watch. As Browns fans, we are so used to mediocrity. I can't say that word, but we've had a really solid defensive effort this year, and that's something that we've always hung our hat on, especially the last couple. Well, it hasn't been the strongest of all the seasons, but this year has been just dramatic with Jim Schwartz coming over. But now we actually have an offensive threat in players like Amari Cooper and Joe Flacco and David Njoku. So enjoy the moment tomorrow. Enjoy the festivities moving up to it. Enjoy the day. It will be a victory Saturday night. It'll be a victory Sunday to celebrate after they win. I will be bringing you post-game coverage after the Browns' big win tomorrow, and we look forward to them producing more coverage for everybody as we go into the new week, as the Browns prepare for another playoff game. Fingers are crossed, toes are crossed. We're all excited. Folks, I hope you have a very good rest of your evening. You only have 18 minutes now till the clock hits midnight, and it's Saturday playoff football for the Brownies. Everybody take care. This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, and remember to, that's right, keep smiling. Take care, everybody. Let me find my music. Got to find my music. Enjoy it. See ya. Go Browns. Go Browns.